Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about Joe Swanson from Family Guy, and how a well-written support character can be a big reason a show can last so long. Joe is a character who keeps the show rolling with being neighbors and close buddies with the main character, Peter Griffin. Joe is a man who is determined to not let setbacks such as being paralyzed from the waist down set him back. This setback does often become the punchline of most jokes. Joe can be seen as having hot temper at times, which makes for some great moments, but for the most part, he is a good worker at the police station and a great friend to Peter, Quagmire, and Cleveland. Now we were getting to some moments we really enjoy about Joe Swanson and why we find him to be such an important character. Support characters really do make a difference in shows, and we're gonna have a bunch of moments here why, and how when Joe Swanson's present in Family Guy, just we always find it to be hilarious and just better off with him. The first moment I'm going to be talking about is when the guys are dumpster diving and Quagmire finds a pair of working legs and calls dibs. Joe then starts to complain but respects that Quagmire called dibs. This dude Joe is a man that respects concepts such as dibs even if it means Quagmire snags a pair of working legs that he doesn't need. It's such a stupid moment, but it's that stupid humor the show aims for and often executes well. Another moment that is a good example of what you would get from this character is when Joe visits the Griffin house, late at night to bring some good and bad news. Peter opens the door saying, "Hey buddy, what brings you here around at this late hour with your uniform on and your hat held mournfully against your chest?" Joe painfully delivers the news that Meg is dead and was burned beyond recognition in a car wreck, but then immediately shares with the Griffin family that he quote-unquote leveled up on Fortnite over the weekend, and that they probably only care about the first news. Joe delivers awful timing about his excitement of Fortnite as he is unsuccessfully balancing him being on the job and being a friend who wants to tell his buddy about Fortnite. Just another casual line that can be overlooked but is very funny. My final specific moment I want to talk about is when Peter meets Evelyn at the retirement home when clearing out his mother's room since she passed away. Peter and Evelyn become friends and Peter introduced her to the guys at the bar. This became an extremely awkward scenario and it seems like they're almost dating. And Quagmire remembers that he has to quote unquote get the hell out of here and leaves, making the moment even more awkward for Joe. After some awkward silence, Joe reveals that God said he will be able to walk one more time in his life and that he was saving it for Susie's wedding day, but decides to get up and walk away to avoid this awful scenario. Joe can be found having a speaking role in most episodes, and almost every time he's on the show, he makes me laugh. A character like Joe is rare to have on a TV show, and it's truly a reason I believe that Family Guy is one of the most successful shows and is still making new episodes to this day. Support characters should never be overlooked in a show as they truly add much needed support to all your favorite shows. Similar to what I just said there, but you need a good, well-rounded set of characters, and if you don't, the show's not lasting long. You can have one good character and you hate everyone else, you're likely not watching it as often. So, props to Family Guy and the writing, very funny all the time, and Peter and his three buddies are all just great characters and always fun to watch. Especially my boy Joe Swanson.
So yeah, Connor's talking about Joe Swanson and his funny moments, funny episodes, and why he's important. I think Joe's important because he adds a huge comedic relief to the already hilarious show. Someone they're constantly putting down and make fun of, mainly because he's in a wheelchair. Almost every episode Joe's in, you'll hear at least one reference to him being a cripple or just to shut up because his legs don't work. His character is very important for this reason, but it's also his personality in general that's just really funny. He starts off the show when he first comes on as a big shot tough guy. That scene where he gets put into the baseball game and he's hitting home runs, he's doing all this stuff, wins the game, and Peter gets all jealous of him, and slowly they start to become closer as friends. And as the seasons go on, he loses his confidence and allows people to continue to belittle him more and more, and he just ends up accepting it and not even caring about it. Towards the middle of the series, he starts to lose the likability from the viewers just because it's not really as funny during those middle seasons. But right around season 11 or 12, he starts to gain some love back. They start making him funnier and all this stuff. So I think that also helps. So the first episode that I have in my head of Joe just being really funny and a good side character is the scene where him and Quagmire are in the plane and where they're flying around looking for Miles Muscat's treasure. And they're flying in the plane. Joe asks Quagmire if he wants a Mounds bar. And Quagmire just starts going off on him about how they're disgusting and everything. And he's like, oh, no, I love these. They're my favorite candy and everything like that. And he's like, Joe, how often are you eating Mounds bars? He's like, oh, I probably eat like 2 a day. Yeah, Quagmire's just making fun of him and all this stuff, telling him that's the reason he can't walk because he's drowning in chocolate and coconut. And he takes the Mounds bar from Joe and he throws it out the plane window. And then it's silent for a couple seconds, and all of a sudden you just hear a wrapper open up and Joe's eating another Mounds bar. Another scene that I think is pretty funny is when Peter becomes forklift certified and Joe asks the guys if they can do him a favor, and it cuts to them outside of the bar and they have Joe propped up on the forklift as if he's standing up. Yeah, he's doing all this stuff. He's walking around and they're passing people. He's making fun of them, telling them, oh, you're short. How's the weather down there? And they cut back to the guys and like, oh, should we tell him that his pants fell off? And it cuts back to Joe's bare butt and he's just singing and dancing still. And he has no idea that his pants are off or that he has no underwear on too. Another scene is when Joe gets his legs back and him, Bonnie, and Kevin are all sledding down a big hill. Joe falls down the hill. You hear a bunch of cracking and bad noises. And then all of a sudden he stands up, he cracks his neck, and he's like, oh my gosh, I can walk again. And then his son Kevin comes flying down the hill, knocks into him, and just, he's back on the ground. He can't move his legs again. It's like, oh, sorry, Dad. And Joe's just like, it's fine, just go get the wheelchair, in a very angry tone. Another really funny one is when the guys get arrested, and they're all out in the yard and they got their arms and legs chained together, chopping wood and stuff. And they're trying to figure out how they're going to be able to escape. And Joe's like, oh, I got this. And he falls out of the wheelchair on purpose. And he's like crying and whining like, oh my God, like this is so embarrassing for me. I can't believe this is happening. And they're like, Joe, what the hell are you doing? And he's like, no one's ever going to look at someone in a wheelchair on the ground struggling to get up. And it just pans to the guards and they're all like, really trying hard to not make eye contact and look in directions and just make it seem like they don't know what's happening. And Joe's just continuing to cry and scream as the guys are able to sneak away and everything. And to follow all those up, I just have some funnier quotes. One of Joe's more famous quotes is where he's always just yelling, get some really loud, and he gets really aggressive. Like you were saying, Connor, he loves to just get loud at random times. Or like his temper shows up, he'll say something, he's trying to get his point across, and he'll just scream it. Another one is the poop sack, where Peters gets his identity stolen by James Woods, and they're trying to get it back, and Peter's wearing his clothes, and James is like, well, no, I'm Peter Griffin, I need those clothes back. So Joe's like, you heard him, fella, take them off, right down to the poop sack. And they're like, what are you talking about? We don't have poop sacks. And Joe's just like, you don't wear a poop sack? And he starts yelling at Bonnie. He's like, why do you have to lie to me about the poop sacks? One final quote is, the guys are sitting at the bar, hanging out, doing whatever, drinking. And Peter's like, oh, hey, Joe, how often do you and Bonnie have sex? And Joe's like, oh, well, my HMO only covers the equipment for once a year. Why? And that's just a really funny one. It's just another little jab at Joe being in a wheelchair and like making fun of him and everything from the writers. So yeah, all these quotes and scenes just show how much of a comedic relief and impact a side character can have in a show and just how much they're able to boost it up. It takes some of the pressure off of that main character, Peter. They're able to get a few jabs in there, a couple chuckles, couple laughs here and there, And that's basically it on Joe.
I haven't watched Family Guy in a minute, but I do appreciate Joe. One moment I remember seeing on TV recently and enjoying was when Joe's dad hates crippled people. Joe reveals to Peter that he doesn't see his dad often, and Peter insists on them reuniting. Once Joe finds out that Peter brought his dad in town, he tells Peter that his dad hates crippled people, and obviously he's a crippled himself. Joe's father and Peter, who's pretending to be Joe, nag and pick on Joe, who's pretending to be Peter, as he struggles to get into the car even with the help of the rest of the Griffin family, as he appears to simply be dead weight without his wheelchair. This is just one of the many instances where Joe is a featured character for most of the episode, which almost guarantees it to be a good episode.
Alright guys, so that was our brief little video on Joe Swanson, and one of many videos to come on Family Guy, as we all love Family Guy. For whatever reason, I thought it was necessary to talk about a side character first. Can you just bring more notice to that in shows? And, why not bring up a show that's very popular and a good example of this with that being Joe Swanson? So as always, we appreciate you guys watching and supporting our channel. We have more stuff to come very soon, and I hope you guys enjoyed this, and take care. There you go, that's a good outro. We're keeping this. Let's go.